everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. First episode of Ladies Tea of 2024. It is a huge, or should I say huge, year coming up. We all know that. Tonight, we are joined by one of our favorites, editor-in-chief of Human Events and the Post-Millennial, Libby Emmons. Welcome back, Libby, as well as birthday girl herself. Happy birthday, Turning Point contributor, my good friend, Erin Elmore. Libby and Erin, welcome. Erin, happy birthday. Any great thoughts as you're kicking off the birthdays for 2024 and what we expect going into this year? Maybe, I don't know, around like the November mark of this year. What are your thoughts?
I mean, this is really an important election, and I think we all know that, but we really need to get this one across the finish line for Donald Trump. We already know he's going to be the nominee. I've taken that completely off the table. Let's be very honest. And once we get through that, I think it's full steam ahead. We've got to make sure that we have people on every state just working the grounds and making sure that everyone knows, you know, just exactly how to vote, where to vote, when to vote, and make sure that all of our elections are secure and safe. And there's a lot in our country that's wrong right now. We have a completely open border. We have a crashing economy. We have sky-high interest rates. Gas is expensive. Food is expensive. And we have what's going on with our children and indoctrination. And if we don't get Joe Biden out of office, this is all going to get worse, people. It ain't going to get better.
Yeah. Amen to that. Well, happy birthday to you, Erin. Thanks for kicking us off here. I'm also kicking us off with the flu, a cold, whatever's going on with my voice. So we're going to do our best today. Starting off this year, right? It can only go up from here. Speaking of things that are going wrong, Libby, in this country, I think back to September 11th, 2001, the horrors and atrocities of that day. And of course, the mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks, Osama bin Laden, who any of us who lived through that time, we literally remember where we were the day that this occurred. We remember the feeling of helplessness, being attacked here for only the second time in American history on our own soil. And I think those of us who witnessed it will never look at that day again the same way. We certainly think of Osama bin Laden as a bad guy, as someone who was very problematic. We celebrated his death when he was killed. There is a very disturbing Daily Mail poll that has revealed that apparently 1 in 5 Americans under 30 have a positive view of Osama bin Laden. Again, mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks, founder of Al-Qaeda. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the fact that his letter to America was making the rounds on like TikTok, and all of these people, a lot of these kind of like Gen Zers, I think, were really taken aback by it and said, oh, I'm having an existential crisis based on reading this now. Maybe Osama bin Laden was right. I was utterly shocked by the fact that 1 in 5 Americans under 30 think positively of Osama bin Laden. What'd you think?
Yeah, I find that a little bit shocking. The only issue is I bet these people also have a very negative view of America and really hate America and have been taught to hate America. So when they do that, when they hate the United States, it's very easy for them to say that the enemies of America are actually their friends. They don't realize that these enemies of America are their enemies as well, that these enemies of America would just as easily destroy them, brutalize them, as we saw on October 7th, which is another day that is going to, you know, go down in the annals with December 7th and September 11th. So this thing that we have seen with Osama bin Laden and the pumping up of his evil and horrific rhetoric against the United States, against the West, against women, against anybody who loves freedom. These are the same things that we see coming out of Hamas and coming out of the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, pro-Hamas contingent that we see in the United States, blocking roads, preventing ambulances from getting where they need to go, and generally attempting to cause mayhem and chaos. And these young people have been taught to hate America by our educational system. It's so blatant, and now they do. What are we supposed to do with that? You know, that's why we need a reverse indoctrination. You know, one thing I think that would be great if Trump is able to retake the White House is to reinstitute that 1776 project, which had Dr. Carol Swain and so many other amazing American and patriotic scholars talking about the founding of this country.
Yeah, you know what, Erin?
Hmm.
The same group of people who, and by the way, 3 out of 10 of these same people, the Gen Zers, think that Osama bin Laden was a quote force for good. Shocking. These are the same group of people who are most likely to deny the Holocaust, and as Libby just pointed out, sympathize with Hamas, the terrorist group who, of course, killed Jewish people in Israel on October 7th. The number of Americans, and I think this is part of the problem right now, in addition to the educational system, the number of Americans getting their news from TikTok,
Yep.
which we know like half of people under 30 in this country get their information from TikTok, has quadrupled in the past 3 years. It was 3% in 2020. It's somewhere around 14% in 2023. If you were so easily manipulated into thinking that a terrorist, a person like Osama bin Laden, who on 9/11 killed 2,977 Americans here on American soil, if you are so ingrained in this like nonsense and you are so easily swayed that you think that somehow Hamas going into Israel and murdering Jews was maybe warranted and valid, it really kind of terrifies me for what is to come for this country. I outside of really doing some major shift in education, I
Yeah.
don't know though what we do with social media, because obviously that's where a lot of these views are coming from.
Well, yeah. I mean, we all know that TikTok is a Chinese Communist Party spying tool, period. It's not
Yeah.
even up for debate. And if your kids are on TikTok, get them off, do whatever you can because it's intentional. These aren't accidents that this is coming up and these ideas are being propagated. They're actually being promoted. And this is what the Chinese Communist Party wants to do to our country: divide us, create chaos, spread misinformation, disinformation, and lies. So it's coming from outside of our country, but we know on the liberal left in America, who basically run our education system, they don't want our children to think critically. They are using critical race theory and not teaching history, and our children are being deprived of an education and the ability to think for themselves. So when they see these horrible ideas, they don't have a good understanding of history. They don't understand what happened on September 11th. So they see something like this and they're far more inclined to believe it. And that's why I've said this 500 times, and I will say it again until everyone understands: the days of passive parenting are over. Read what your kids
Right.
are reading. Find out what their assignments are in school. See what's on their phones. See what they're watching. Literally, you have to pay attention to every single thing. And you also have to teach them about history yourselves, because you cannot guarantee that they are learning any of the things they need to learn about history, communism, so it doesn't repeat itself, the Holocaust, because our kids do not understand what's going on. And we have to really be an active participant in their education, or else they're going to fall for ideas like this. And these numbers are going to just continue to rise.
You know, I got a question. I do a Q&A episode once a week. I got a question like 2 weeks ago about what was, I think the question was something along the lines of, while you were in school, what was the most impactful book that you had to read while in school? And I actually said The Diary of Anne Frank was one of the most
Yeah.
impactful books I ever read. I mean, I probably have read that book 3 times. And I remember being very interested in World War II, very interested in learning about World War II. Reading that book, I mean, had such a profound effect on me as like a seventh grader or whatever I was when I initially read it. But my thing is, I wonder, Libby, will my kids have to read The Diary of Anne Frank
No.
as I did, or will that be phased out by that point? And it is a valid question. I've also been watching on Netflix. They have this World War II, I think it's called From the Front Lines. It's like a colorized World War II docu-series. It's really incredible. I mean, if you're into learning about history, this is 100% up your alley. And it's really incredible to think that the things that you see in this docu-series actually took place. It really isn't that long ago, yet so many people have forgotten. So many people aren't even learning about these things. Do you worry about that sort of thing, Libby? Like, I truly wonder if by the time my children are in seventh grade, The Diary of Anne Frank will even be part of the curriculum.
Yeah, I'm very worried about that. And what's interesting too is, as Erin was talking about, see everything that the kids are bringing home. The kids aren't bringing anything home. They don't bring home homework. When I ask about this, teachers say, "Oh, we do everything in class." They don't bring home textbooks. It's all online. When you ask for the curriculum, you hear things like, oh, we did it in class, or it's on this website and you can check it out. And then you have to go get a whole new login. You know, you have absolutely no idea what's going on in classes. You don't know what's being taught. And it's very confusing to even try and figure out what it is that the kids are learning. I had this thing happen over Christmas break. I got an email from my son's math teacher. Your son didn't turn in this paper, this whatever worksheet. I look at it and I reply, is there a way that we can, are there instructions for this? There was no math on it. There were no numbers. It was like, write a word problem about this. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So for sure, I can say to my son, like, hey, why don't you do this? And he says, I don't remember being taught this. Okay, maybe there's a disconnect there, but I say to the teacher, where can we find out about this? The directions are in the book and your son was misbehaving in class. Well, okay, Can I get a page number or a citation? And if he was misbehaving in class, why are you only taking the opportunity now to tell me about it? Weeks later, after you're telling me he didn't turn in this thing. And it's just like, you are so unhelpful, math teacher. You are just so shockingly unhelpful. What book? Where? There's no books. It's absurdity. And it's so different from when we were kids. You know, when we were kids, if I didn't turn in an assignment, the note would go home and my parents would have to sign it. And then I would have to get yelled at about, like, where was your assignment? Now it's just totally, it's totally out of control, totally out of sight. And you don't even know about a problem until weeks later. So yeah, it's not just find out what's going on at school. It's demand that the school be accountable for the education of your children. And yes, teach them Anne Frank yourself, because it's doubtful that they're going to get anything at all. Plus, the reading levels are so far behind. Like, are seventh graders even going to be reading at a 7th grade level? Or are they going to be reading, whatever the new Jack and LGBTQ plus size Jill is?
So that's what I was going to say. I've been looking at these curriculums now because my son will be in 6th grade. And one of Jill Biden's, the doctor, the good doctor.
Oh, Dr. Jill. Yeah.
Yeah. One of her recommended books for high school students is the Trevor Noah biography. And a lot of schools, I won't name specific ones, are making our children read that as required reading. Okay. And
that sounds like trash, Erin.
It's not a classic.
Is that here in Florida, Erin? Wow, that's very upsetting. Okay, good to know. Noted.
That's in the high school. So anyway, the point is he has made some very deeply anti-Semitic comments, some very misogynistic and sexual comments about women that you can find online and just list very quickly. And I would tell all parents, say, my child is not reading this. There is no educational value in this when this kind of man, especially right now, if we're worried about anti-Semitism and then having someone like that be the star book that you're having on your bookshelf. Another book that's very popular is The Hate U Give, with the letter U, not the word U. And they tell you how to be an activist. They literally tell you how to be an activist, and they direct you to BLM. Also, we remember BLM Chicago posted that Hamas paratrooper, praising it. So these are the kind of books that are in our schools, and that's why we have to fight back. I know a lot of middle schools, I can't remember the name of the book, but it tells you that Satan might not be bad. And for 8th graders, there's a component of a sexual relationship between 2 young boys. So this is what you're having our children. Like, this is absolute trash. You're not hearing like Moby Dick or the Anne Frank, like not even a classic, right? These are the books they want to pollute our children's brains with. And these aren't rarities. This is all over.
The finals of the Cosmo quizzes.
Yeah. By the way, but this is all the more reason, I think, as we're heading towards November. We are in 2024 now. It is this year, folks. We are not just electing a president of the United States. We are also voting on things all around your community. Make sure you know who is running for different positions, because they matter. They matter when it comes to the curriculum in your kid's school. They matter on a whole host of different fronts. What's happening in your local community? Pay attention, get involved, start learning about these things. It's kind of crazy. We just had New Year's Eve, and a lot of times this is kind of like a fresh start. People are like, you know what, let's go into this with positivity. Unfortunately, Billie Joe Armstrong, who of course is the the singer of Green Day, was performing at a New Year's Eve show that I believe was it on ABC or NBC, one of the networks, of course. And he was singing the song American Idiot, couldn't help himself, had to get woke, had to get anti-Trump. He changed the lyrics from I'm not a part of the redneck agenda to I'm not part of the MAGA agenda. This is not punk rock. These people are so controlled by the mainstream. They are so controlled by the corporate political agenda. And this just is another example of, do you guys remember when, I think it was Neil Young, Keep on Rockin' in the Free World? Remember when Neil Young, it was like 2 years ago, got all upset because Joe Rogan, who was hosted on Spotify as one of his platforms, was talking about the COVID vaccine. And he gave his opinion of things and gave his thoughts on things. And Neil Young decided, I am so against his freedom of speech, I'm going to pull my music from Spotify. It is so funny to me, though, Libby, because these are the people who are supposed to be anti-establishment. These are the people who are supposed to be like the rockers that we look to like fight back against the man. They are in lockstep with the man. It is amazing to see.
Yeah, it is pretty surprising. Although millionaires hating MAGA voters is not surprising necessarily, because MAGA voters are middle class and working class primarily, and they're saying your agenda is garbage. Your agenda is COVID vaccines and wokeness and all kinds of things that are terrible, shutting down farms, climate alarmism, all of this nonsense. So that in that respect, it's not really surprising. I think that singer is worth $75 million or something, if memes are to be believed, that I saw on X today. So yeah, but these aging rockers who take it upon themselves to shill for the establishment really should not be listened to. Anyone who's buying tickets to these concerts should really be ashamed of themselves, because there's just nothing there. One of my favorite aging rockers is Morrissey, who's a British pop star. He was lead singer of the Smiths, and he's absolutely my favorite. And he has been shunned repeatedly for speaking his mind, for going against the establishment, for going against Hollywood and all of the leftist agenda. He's just like, no, this is groupthink and it's terrible. I'm not going to be involved. And so he can't even get record deals, but his concerts are packed. People really need to think for themselves. People need to look to cultural figures who are thinking for themselves, and they're out there. And I think this actually speaks to a really big thing on the conservative side that is important to me, which is building a conservative culture, building arts for conservatives, that have values, not even necessarily conservative values, but values of upholding our rights. Our God-given rights as Americans, values that uphold what this nation is founded on, which is not conservative and it's not leftist. It's really just American patriotic values. And I think that that's really important. Let's boost young artists who are speaking out in favor of truth, honesty, and the American way. I think they're out there. We just have to find and boost them.
It's never going to happen, though, because that's not who runs, it's Hollywood. It's so funny.
So Libby, parallel economy stuff again. Where's the public square of record companies? I know there's Based Records, there's Timcast, Trash Records. They're doing this stuff. But we have to go looking for these artists and stop giving our money to these people who hate us.
Yeah. As a member of first of all, Libby, you and I talked about the counterculture, how being conservative is rebellious, and it's the counterculture. These punk guys that are going along basically with Joe Biden. First of all, Green Day is like washed up. I won't age myself, but they came out when I was in high school. This is the best thing that's ever happened to them. They're getting attention. So also,
when was the last time anyone was talking about Green Day?
They weren't. And it's like Rage Against the Machine. If you think about the name of that band, Rage Against the Machine. Those guys are woke as a joke. This song is like, F you, I won't do what you told me. Now it's like, take me in the arm, 99 vaccines. Okay. It's like these people are not serious people. And I think Laura Ingraham wrote the book Shut Up and Sing. I'm all about that. Just sing.
I love it.
I don't need your opinion. Shut up and dribble.
It's so true.
They think it's really fashion models. Really, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is not that this has anything to do with this. This just talking about Green Day reminds me of a time, and I know, ladies, you remember this time. I'm sure some of the audience does as well. Maybe some do not. but a time when you had to actually like know the name of a song and know the name of a band, and then you would go to like a store and you would buy the CD, you would buy the album from the band. This is just a quick side note about Green Day. This is one of the funniest stories. When I was, however old I was like in middle school, I guess, when Green Day was like a big thing. Their song Basket Case was like the song I would always hear on the radio, and I loved it. So for Christmas, I had asked for their CD. I knew it was Green Day, but in my mind, the name of the song was Paranoid. So I tell my dad, like, this is on my Christmas list, Green Day, Paranoid. My dad goes to the music store and he goes up to some guy and he's like, I think I'm looking for a band called Green Ship, and the song is Pyramid. I swear to God, somehow this guy figured it out at the music store, whatever it was, and I got the right album, I got the right CD. But I will never forget that. Every time I see Green Day, I'm like, Green Ship, Paranoid, or Pyramid, as my dad put it. It is amazing that it happened. And it was different back in the day. You didn't just know. You couldn't hit a button on your phone and say, like, what is this song? You had to, like, wait. You had to press the record and play button and record it and get your little snippet of the song.
You had to wait for the DJ to say what it was.
Yeah. Gone are those days. Those were the good old days before we were being fully indoctrinated with all of it. And before Dylan Mulvaney, the days before Dylan, remember those days? We all know Dylan, who has become somewhat of an LGBTQ plus icon for those folks. Although I don't know that the LGBTQ people like him very much, however we say it. Dylan, by the way, I saw did a big thing online where he changed the gender on his passport to female. Now, here's my question. What is required of somebody to change the gender on an official government ID? Like, a passport is a pretty big deal. You have to go through a lot to get a passport. It allows you entry into this country, allows you entry into other countries. If we're just arbitrarily allowing people to change their gender on a passport based on how they feel they should be identified, that could be problematic. Libby, I feel that could be a little dangerous. I don't know. That kind of felt a little weird to me, but I don't know. Maybe they have a great process and they have to go through something that I don't know about.
This is the Biden administration, Laura. They have an excellent vetting process.
I'm sure they do. Just like at the southern border.
Yes, it's perfect. It's perfect. So Dylan Mulvaney was able to change his passport to recognize him as a woman. Of course, he's not a woman. He has a penis.
Yes.
He has had facial feminization surgery, and he's a little bit skinny and likes wearing Kate Spade. None of these things make you a woman. What kind of government is it that allows citizens to lie on official documentation? There's also been cases recently where parents have checked off the non-gender box, apparently, on birth certificates, because, again, the government is just letting people lie to themselves to uphold some bizarre fantasy that there's no such thing as biological sex. I, for one, do not trust a government that allows people to lie on official documentation. I think that this is a complete failure of the Biden administration. But of course, if you look back at the executive order that Joe Biden signed, what was it like? I believe it was January 21st, 2021. It demanded that every single federal agency figure out how to be more inclusive to people who think that reality is a lie. And they had to go out there and make all these changes. And they did. They made so many changes. That's how we ended up with the agriculture department saying that schools that don't allow boys to play in girls' sports can't get free food aid for lunches. It's absolutely ridiculous. It should not be permitted. There is also a note with that comes with a passport where you lie about your biological sex on it. And that note says that some countries won't admit you with false documents.
Oh.
The United States should not allow this. Yeah, I mean, really, are you going to go to Saudi Arabia and they're going to let Dylan Mulvaney and they're being like, hi, everybody, I'm actually a girl, ignore the penis, you know?
Nothing to see here, people.
They're not going to allow that. It's total trash. I cannot believe this. Like, the federal government is just allowing these lies blatantly, and we're just supposed to believe it. We're supposed to go along with it. It goes back to the curriculum thing. We're building followers, not leaders. I want our children to grow up to be leaders. You know, not to be managed and lied to.
Forbes thought that Dylan Mulvaney was quite the leader. Dylan was named to Forbes 30 under 30 for promoting gender transition on social media. I don't know why that's a great thing, but okay. Also, by the way, Dylan won Woman of the Year via two different outlets, Virgin Atlantic Attitude Awards or Altitude Awards and the Steamy Awards. You know, this is where we are in America right now. Meanwhile, at the same time, it kind of fits into this whole thing. Mike DeWine is the governor of Ohio. Now, Mike DeWine vetoed legislation that would have banned sex changes for minors. And you kind of think about it and you're like, huh. So here you have a Republican governor in a very red state, Ohio, who decided to say, you know what? Sex changes for kids are a good thing. I'm going to allow that to go through. Turns out, Erin, according to a report, DeWine received thousands of dollars in campaign donations from these very hospitals that would conduct these sorts of procedures. In fact, between 2018 and 2023, he received over $40,000 in campaign donations from these hospitals. One of the people, the investigative researcher on this whole report, said how nice of him to veto a bill that would have cost gender-affirming children's hospitals millions of dollars. Interesting how that worked out.
Well, it just shows you that he is bought and paid for. And I don't know how people like this go to sleep at night when they know this isn't without consequence, right? We are talking about children here that you are protecting. But no. You'd rather have $40,000 in campaign donations and jeopardize the lives of young children who are being used as pawns. Okay, let's face it. These gender affirming or whatever you want to call them surgeries are very lucrative for these hospital systems. Very lucrative. And, you know, if you talk to people in the medical profession, sometimes they're learning while they're doing these procedures. These are teaching hospitals. They're using these as teaching moments to educate younger doctors, to get residents up to speed. They don't care about these young children. I'm from Philadelphia originally, and a lot of my friends support the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which was one of the best in the country. And I see them all posing at the gala. And I asked every one of them, do you know that Penn is one of the leaders in gender affirming surgeries? And I said, make sure you earmark that money specifically for where you want it to go, because God forbid you're funding something that you don't believe in religiously, spiritually, morally, or otherwise.
Yeah, it is. It's really crazy. The interesting thing too, to me, is I don't know what this really gets in terms of like political points. First of all, you're allowing children to mutilate themselves beyond repair. How many people we've seen detransition who speak out about this and say, this is horrible. This is child abuse to allow your child to do this to themselves.
It is.
Even 68% of Democrats in Harvard-Harris poll from June oppose sex changes for minors. I mean, you should at least be of an age where you are able to make real life decisions about things before you're able to do something like this to yourself. It's absolutely disgraceful. I don't know what the heck's
we
going
wouldn't let
on
an 8-year-old drive a car. We won't let an 8-year-old get a tattoo.
Yeah.
Let them get tattoos, but they can cut their boobs off.
Right.
It's crazy. It's really crazy stuff. I hope the people of Ohio pay attention to this and think about this in upcoming elections. Just on a bit of a lighter note, we just got through Christmas. And, you know, it's funny to me because oftentimes, I know this as a Trump, I know this will be shocking. People will base their decisions on things solely based on whether or not they like or dislike Donald Trump.
Yep.
So the Daily Mail decided we're going to do a blind poll, and they showed 1,000 people photos and videos of the White House decorations for Christmas under Dr. Jill Biden's reign and under Melania Trump whenever she was in charge of the Christmas decorations. And they said, which do you like? And I know a lot of people saw those videos, those like really terrifying videos of these like crazy like pig faces and people doing like crazy stuff during this past Christmas. I don't know what the hell was going on in the Biden White House and why they thought any of this was positive, but it looked like a real like freak show circus situation going on over there. Overwhelmingly, people who did not know that it was Melania Trump who decorated chose Melania's decorations. Obviously, Libby, if you have eyes and you can see, the horror show that ensued at the Biden White House this Christmas was not anything to write home about. But it's really funny because I feel like if you did the same thing with the Biden policies and the Trump policies and how it works out for average Americans, for like everyday people in this country, and you didn't put Biden or Trump at the top, people would overwhelmingly as well support the Trump policies over the Biden policies. I thought that was interesting, though.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too. And when I first saw that video of the Biden White House Christmas spectacular, I was just like, what is this? Really air guitar? This is not classic. This is.
Did you feel like you wanted to take a shower like after you watched it like I did?
The cardboard cutout decorations. And then I did look back at Melania's decorations. Very classic, very beautiful, very reverent. There was no reverence in the Biden Christmas because for them, Christmas isn't about, the birth of our Savior, Jesus Christ.
Right.
Christmas is about tap dancing and transgenderism. So, what can we say? There's no accounting for taste. But it's true what you say also about the policies. And I brought this up with my liberal mom, and I've said there's this idea or there's this idea, and really when it gets down to it, people just don't like Donald Trump's personality. And it's like that has so little to do with who you should think should be president. Everyone loved Obama, and he had these horrible policies. People think Biden is this sweet old man, and then he's doing these ridiculous things, encouraging parents to affirm their kids on one of the hundreds of trans awareness days that dot through the year. And another thing about the Mike DeWine thing, which was absolutely terrible policy, one of the women who spoke out on December 6th advocating against this policy said that she has 2 trans kids.
I know.
Wow.
This is like less than 1% of the adult population. It's supposedly 1.4% of the younger generation because, of course, it's very trendy. And so it's rising in popularity. But you don't end up with 2 trans kids unless you want to end up with 2 trans kids. That's how that happens. It's not like homosexuality either. It's a totally different beast. And she's been writing legislation for 2 years, going out there, pumping this whole thing up. But yeah, I think that people should disregard whatever feelings that they have about not liking Trump personally. You don't know him personally. You don't have to hang out with him personally. All you really need to do is vote for him to have a better economy, better standing on the world stage, and better, border control. So
yeah. Safety, security, more money in your pocket sounds good to me. Just before we get off the Christmas thing, Erin, I thought it was really interesting because usually the Bidens apparently every Christmas hang stockings for their grandchildren at the White House. This is the first year they didn't do it. But what's been interesting is they have actually 7 grandchildren, and they would only hang 6 stockings because they, of course, refused to acknowledge their 7th grandchild, Hunter's, I guess, is it a daughter? Navy Joan is her name. I think they finally acknowledged her existence officially this year, but somehow they couldn't stomach putting up the 7 stockings for the 7 grandchildren. I also thought that was fascinating as well.
Yeah. If Don Jr. had a baby with a stripper, everyone would be talking about it. I'm just saying.
That's it.
By the way, that
also, Trump would be like, yay, a grandchild.
Right.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah. That dance
parents' sins don't have an effect on the kids like that.
Yeah. But that dance troupe at the White House was like a Marxist dance troupe, literally. Like they're a specific group, and their so that's who they're promoting in the Biden White House. That's exactly who they want to have around, the agenda that they want to push onto the American people. It was absolutely twisted. But yeah, I don't think the way that Hunter is treated by the mainstream media and the way that the Trump children are treated by the mainstream media is fair and balanced and equal in any way. And all around, this Biden family Christmas gets an F. And it's very clear why they didn't do those stockings this year now, isn't it?
Well, what would have happened if Don Jr. or Eric Trump or Ivanka Trump stood outside of Congress on the Senate side so that they couldn't be arrested by the House and said, hey, I'm not going to comply with your subpoena? Right? What would happen? They would have gone to jail. They would have been hauled off and put in jail for totally disrespecting Congress. What is up with that? Hunter just gets stand there and be like, hey, I don't
yeah.
have to comply with Congress. I am above the law. Really?
Well, that's exactly what that was. And by the way, don't forget that when asked to appear, oh, who's that? Is that Sandwich? Who do we have?
Every time.
Sandwich,
I
love
have
it.
a husband and a son here that are supposed to be helping me.
It's okay. I've had the flu the past 2 days, and ask me about the big
amount of
cold.
health,
Yeah. Eric Trump's doing great. I love you, babe.
I always tell the people, like, my house is about as civilized as a prison riot.
Well, speaking of civilized, just before we go, I just have to touch on this. I saw this and I thought this was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Erin, I got to go to you first on this. There is a $5 million class action lawsuit against Hershey's. Hershey's manufactures Reese's. Reese's, by the way, if you want to know what to send me, Reese's are my jam. I don't like fruity, like candy, any of that stuff. Give me peanut butter and chocolate all day long. I love it. And the best Reese's are like the special ones they do, like the pumpkins, the Christmas trees, the Easter eggs, because the ratio of peanut butter to chocolate is such that it's just a great addition to like the candy stash. I'll say $5 million lawsuit because some woman in Tampa, Florida bought one of these like pumpkin jack-o'-lantern Reese's over Halloween and felt like it was misleading advertising because when she opened up the package, the Reese's itself did not have the jack-o'-lantern face on it.
No.
It was just the pumpkin. She also cites that there's an issue with the ghost and the bat Reese's because they too do not include the faces. Are we kidding? $5 million. These things cost $4.49 each. Just give her money back and can we call it a day?
Well, first of all, I was born in Hershey and today is my birthday, so that's very interesting. But as an attorney who just finished all of her legal CLE requirements for the year, I will tell you that I cannot imagine what court wouldn't throw this out on its face.
Yeah.
Because with a lawsuit, you need damages. What are the damages here? Okay. Did she go into severe psychiatric counseling? You know, is she scarred for life with PTSD? There's no way to prove damages. This is such a frivolous lawsuit. And by the way, it's Tampa. Maybe it melted, but I'm with you that those Reese's are excellent, but they don't have faces. They're just the shape. Okay.
I don't need a face. I just need the deliciousness of the chocolate and the peanut butter. And by the way, you say what court wouldn't throw this out because there are no damages? Maybe it is the same court that Letitia James brought a lawsuit against the Trump organization, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and my husband, because there too, there are no damages, yet this crazy lawsuit is still happening. It is preposterous. This is the kind of crap, as far as I'm concerned, Libby, that is wrong in this country. If this thing has legs, if this lawsuit goes anywhere, by the way, in the state of Florida, I just don't even know what to say. I can't stomach stuff like this. This is crazy.
No.
Yeah, that one's ridiculous. It's also very different. We talk about frivolous lawsuits. We often remember the woman who sued McDonald's because she was scalded by some hot coffee. I looked into that suit, and that actually, McDonald's was making their coffee like 3 times too hot in order that it would be hot enough when it got to its location. And so the woman, she was an older woman. It spilled on her lap. She had 3rd-degree burns. She was in the hospital for months, skin grafts, the whole thing. There's no kind of issue like that for missing a jack-o'-lantern face on a piece of chocolate. And how do you complain about chocolate and peanut butter? My favorite ice cream is actually chocolate peanut butter ice cream. Ooh. I cannot turn it down, especially if you throw on a scoop of banana. It's like the most perfect. It's great.
Oh, I love what we're doing here. By the way, ladies, we could all hang. We could all get just a batch of these. If this lady doesn't want the pumpkins from Reese's, we'll get a batch. We'll hang out. We'll eat them. I'm very available for something like that.
Yeah, that would be great. Also, can't you just solve this lawsuit by sending her a little lifetime supply of chocolate jack-o'-lantern faced pumpkins? What is the big deal?
She'll be so offended if they don't have the faces on them that she can't. It will ruin her entire life.
It's gonna shark you, lady. Just draw it on.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. All right. Well, happy birthday, Erin. Thanks
Thank
for joining
you.
us on your birthday. We love you. We celebrate
Thank
you.
you.
Libby, thank you as always for being
you
with
so
us.
much.
And to everybody at home, thanks for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LARA-T so you can get yourself one of these today too. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. If you're listening right now and you want to get these products, go to organicbodyessentials.com, use promo code Trump, save yourself a little bit of money and do something great for your skin. One way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. If you want to get yourself some Kingdom Fuel protein powder as well, go to sherwood.tv. You can use promo code Trump when you check out for a little bit of savings, and you're going to get a delicious, great protein powder to fuel you through your day.